Hello and welcome to today's session on International Financial Management. I'm Dr. Maruf Ahmed Mir, PhD in Financial Markets and MBA in Finance and Accounts from AMU Aligarh. And at present, I am associated with Asian Business School, Noida, as Associate Professor in the area of Finance and Accounts. So dear students, let's start with the concept of International Financial Management. Globalization has made a tremendous impact throughout the world in past few years. The world has seen a tremendous increase in the global transactions and foreign trade in recent years. Multinational companies and transnational companies hold strong position in different channels of globalization. They account for all foreign direct investment and very active in trade, with 1/3 of the world trade taking place within and not between the companies. The main reason behind this is that now more and more countries are getting engaged in trading with each other in order to increase their profit or sales or protecting them from being eroded by the competition. The main objectives which are influencing the companies to engage in international business are expansion of sales, acquiring resources, minimizing competitive risk, and diversification of sources of sales and supplies. Besides these, other factors are like economic factors, cultural factors, technological factors, and social factors which have influence to a greater extent. The emergence and activities of transnational and multinational enterprises have impacted to a huge extent on the concept of globalization, and multinationals have played an important role. Given their international reach and mobility, protective countries and sometimes regions within countries must compete with each other. To compete, countries and regional political districts offer incentives to MNCs such as tax breaks, pledges of government assistance or improved infrastructure or lax environment and labor standards. This process helps to make the MNCs more attractive to foreign investment and gives them the required flexibility in marketing and distribution. When the financial manager of an international corporation operates in more than one country, he encounters with new opportunities as well as new costs and risks. The main risk facing the MNCs is the differences among the countries, the people of the world, foreign exchange risks, and the special business risks of operating in unfamiliar environment. In addition, there is a specter of political risk, the risk that the sovereign governments may interfere with operations or terminate them altogether. Let's discuss scope of international finance. Students, MNCs typically have subsidiaries or joint ventures in each national market. How these companies are organized, how they operate, and their lines of business are heavily influenced by socio-cultural, political, global, economic, and legal environments of each country a firm does business in. The management of the parent company typically must incorporate all the legal restrictions of the home company into the management of companies based in every different legal and cultural frameworks. International treaties such as the Basel Accords, the World Trade Organizations, and the Kyoto Protocol often seek to provide a uniform framework for how business should be influenced between signatory states. International business, by its nature, is a primary determinant of international trade. One of the results on the increasing success of international business ventures is globalization. Trade helps to prevent conflict. International business essentially is about trade, and when people trade, they are in contact with one another. As a result, there is less isolation, and when countries begin to interact through trade, they are less likely to fight. This is also linked to the theory that democratic states are less likely to go to war with one another because they are interconnected and dependent on each other's success. As a multinational corporation, called as MNC, is involved in producing and selling goods and services in more than one country, it usually consists of a parent company located in its home country with numerous foreign subsidiaries. As business expands, the awareness of opportunities in foreign markets also increases. This ultimately evolves into some of them becoming MNCs so that they can enjoy the benefit of international business opportunities. Now, the consequences of the events affecting the stock market and interest rates of one country notes immediately show up around the world. This is due to the interacted and interdependent financial environment which exists around the world. Also, there have been close links between money and capital markets. All this makes it necessary for every MNC and aspiring manager to take a close look at the ever-changing and dynamic field of international finance. Now we will discuss the objectives of the MNCs. An objective is necessary so that all decisions of the organization contribute towards the fulfillment of this purpose. The usually accepted objective of an MNC is to maximize shareholders' wealth. This is the objective which its domestic firm also accepts and tries to fulfill. In the context of an MNC, the objective of maximizing shareholders' wealth must be analyzed in a much wider context, with a much wider range of opportunities, taking into account the worldwide market share. This makes MNC task much more complex than that of a domestic firm. So, if the manager of an MNC are to achieve their objectives of maximizing the value of their firm or the rate of return from foreign operations, they have to understand the environment in which they function. Now, we will discuss about the environment that consists of, number one, the international financial system, which consists of two segments. The official part, represented by the accepted code of behavior by government compromising the international monetary system, and the private part, which consists of international banks and other multinational financial institutions that participate in the international money and capital markets. Number two, the host country's environment, which consists of such aspects as the political and socio-economic system and the people, culture, value and the aspirations. Understanding of the host country's environment is crucial for successful operation and assessment of the political risk. Further, the manager of an MNC must take into account the fact that the presence of his firm in a number of countries present challenge as well as the opportunities. The basic challenges are the multiplicity of currency and the associated unique risk a manager of an MNC has to face. Another important challenge is the multiplicity and the complexity of the taxation system, which has an impact on the MNC's operations and the profitability. But the manager can use the taxation tool to reduce the firm's overall tax burden through transfer of funds from high to low tax affiliates and by using tax havens. In addition, due to multiplicity of sources of funds, the financial manager has to worry about the foreign exchange and the political risk in positioning funds and in modifying cash resources. The MNC can reduce its cost of capital and at the same time maximize the return on its excess cash resources by taking advantage of the fact that financial resources have been raised from different capital markets. Students, let's discuss agency problem. Financial executives in multinational corporations many times have to make a decision that conflict with the objective of maximizing shareholders' wealth. It has been observed that as foreign operations of a firm expand and diversify, managers of a foreign operations become more concerned with their respective subsidiary and are tempted to make decisions that maximize the value of their respective subsidiaries. These managers tend to operate independently of the MNC parent and view their subsidiary as a single separate units. The decision that these managers take will not necessarily coincide with the overall objective of the parent MNC. So, there is less concern here for how the entity can contribute to the overall value of the parent MNC. Thus, when a conflict of goals occurs between the managers and the shareholders, it is referred to as agency problem. MNCs use various strategies to prevent this conflict from occurring. One simple solution here is to reward the financial managers according to their contribution to the MNC as a whole on a regular basis. Still, another alternative may be to fire managers who do not take into account the goal of the parent company, or probably give them less compensation or rewards. The ultimate aim here is to motivate the financial manager to maximize the value of overall MNC rather than the value of their respective subsidiaries. Objectives of firm and risk management. Most companies have certain goals such as profit maximization, increasing market share, or cost reduction. These goals help the company in the short run. But the ultimate goal of a company should be taking care of the interests of the shareholders. You will first learn about profit maximization as an objective and why this may not be an acceptable goal for a company. Because the accepted objective of a company is the maximization of the shareholders' wealth, you need to learn about this objective, as well as how to evaluate the objective and its impact on shareholders, management, and society. Let us discuss now profit maximization. Companies whose goal is profit maximization make decisions that maximize the overall profit. Profit maximization is not regarded as an appropriate objective for several reasons. In the short run, a finance manager can easily maximize profit by deferring the maintenance, eliminating the research and development expenditure, or cutting other vital costs. These and other short-run cost-cutting measures can result in increased profits, but are clearly not desirable for the long-run interest of a company. The objective of profit maximization is not very specific with respect to the time frame over which to measure the profit. There are three important reasons why profit maximization cannot be acceptable goal. First, profit maximization ignores the timing of the cash flows, and the reference to the current year's profit or the profits of future years is unknown. The timing and the uncertainty associated with the cash flows should be considered. Second, the risk associated with the various projects is not taken into account. At any particular point of time, finance managers face various projects with various levels of risk. Failure to consider the risk levels of the separate projects in decision making can lead to incorrect decisions. If a company tries to maximize only the average of future profits, it can end up with the wrong set of projects because projects with maximum expected cash flows can possess a high risk. Another drawback of profit maximization is that it is based on book values and not on cash flows. When evaluating projects, finance managers are more concerned with cash flows than the accounting profit because companies need cash for various activities such as paying dividend, salaries, and wages. Students, let's now discuss concept of maximization of shareholders' wealth. The goal of the company should be the maximization of shareholders' wealth or the maximization of the market value of the existing shareholders' common stock. Any investment, financing, dividend, or working capital management decision that increases the company value is a good financial management decision. The finance manager strives to act in the best interest of the shareholders by making decisions that increase the value of the stock. It is assumed that financial markets are efficient and stock prices truly reflect shareholders' wealth, and that shareholders' wealth is not increased at the expense of the bondholders. Shareholders' wealth maximization is considered to be more appropriate objective than profit maximization because it considers the net benefit after taking into account the compensation for time and risk. The decision rule associated with NPV is that if a project has a positive NPV, it creates wealth for its shareholders and should be accepted. So, if the NPV is negative, the project should be rejected because it will reduce the shareholders' wealth. If there are several projects, the finance manager should select the projects with the highest NPV. If this criteria is adopted, the wealth of the shareholder will be maximized. Stakeholders' considerations. Companies have broadened their focus, and in addition to the interests of the shareholders, they focus on the interest of the stakeholders. The term stakeholder is a broad term and refers to the parties who have a direct interest in the company, such as customers, owners, creditors, suppliers, and employees. So, if the company follows a strategic vision and a goal such as maximizing the market value of the share, these stakeholders will be amply rewarded. Management's consideration. From the viewpoint of management, the shareholders' wealth maximization is not always a practical governing objective. For example, if the market conditions are temporarily adverse, management can decide to adopt maximization of sales as the objective. This objective need not to be in harmony with the shareholders' wealth maximization and can lead to a conflict. Management discipline can be hard to maintain if directors and shareholders are disinterested in running the company. The management can also manipulate information to increase the share price. Societal considerations. Stock prices respond positively to the actions of the management that enhance the value of the company and improve the ability of a company to be successful in the long run. This means that management actions to maximize stock price tend to provide long-term benefit to shareholders, employees, and the consumers. These actions of management that maximize stock price also tend to benefit society by allocating the resources in the best possible manner. For example, if a company is able to produce high quality goods and services at a lowest possible cost, society also tends to benefit because its resources are optimally utilized. Students, let's discuss now international financial management and domestic financial management. How are they different? International finance is a distinct field of study and certain features set it apart from the domestic financial management. MNCs has got operations around the world and thus have to deal with international customers, shareholders, and other suppliers. Financial management for an MNC is much more complex as they have to deal with exchange rate fluctuations, foreign currency, dual taxation, uncertain political and economic environment, and a host of other uncertainties and risks. Let's discuss the important distinguishing features of international finance. Number one, foreign exchange risk. An understanding of the foreign exchange risk is essential for managers and investors in the modern day environment of unforeseen changes in foreign exchange rates. In a domestic economy, this risk is generally ignored because a single national currency serves as the main medium of exchange within a country. When different nation currencies are exchanged for each other, there is a definite risk of volatility in foreign exchange rate. The present international monetary system setup is characterized by a mix of floating and managed exchange rate policies adopted by each nation, keeping in view its interests. In fact, this variability of exchange rate is widely regarded as the most serious international financial problem facing corporate managers and the policymakers. At present, the exchange rate among some major currencies such as the US dollar, British pound, Japanese yen and the euro fluctuate in a totally unpredictable manner. Exchange rate has fluctuated since 1970s after the fixed exchange rate were abandoned. Exchange rate variation affect the profitability of firm and all firms must understand foreign exchange risks in order to participate increased competition from imports and to value increased opportunities for the exports. Number 2 factor is political risk. Another risk that firms may encounter in international finance is political risk. Political risk ranges from the risk of loss or gain from unforeseen government actions or other events of a political character such as the acts of terrorism to outright expropriation of assets held by foreigners. MNCs must assess the political risk not only in countries where it is currently doing business but also where it expects to establish subsidiaries. The extreme form of political risk is when the sovereign country changes the rules of the game and it affects parties have no alternative open to them. For example, in 1992, Enron Development Corporation, a subsidiary of a Houston-based energy company, signed a contract to build India's longest power plant. Unfortunately, the project got cancelled in 1995 by the politicians in Maharashtra who argued that India did not require the power plant. The company had spent nearly $300 million on the project. The Enron episode highlights the problems involved in enforcing contracts in foreign countries. Thus, political risk associated with the international operations is generally greater than that associated with domestic operations and is generally more complicated. Number 3, expanded opportunity sets. When firms go global, they also tend to benefit from expanded opportunities which are available now. They can raise funds in capital markets where cost of capital is the lowest. In addition, firms can also gain from greater economies of scale when they operate on a global basis. Number 4, market imperfections. The final feature of international finance that distinguishes it from the domestic finance is that world markets today are highly imperfect. There are profound differences among nation laws, tax systems, business practices and general cultural environments. Imperfections in the world financial markets tend to restrict the extent to which investors can diversify their portfolio. Though there are risks and costs in coping with these market imperfections, they also offer managers of international firms abundant opportunities. Thus, the job of the manager of an MNC is both challenging and risky. The key to such management is to make the diversity and complexity of the environment work for the benefit of the firm. That is all for today. Hope you have understood. So, we will meet in the next episode with a new topic. Till then, take care. Goodbye.